SANDHAN, All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટ ના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Hello, welcome students once again for the special lecture on Elizabethan age and its literary features. You remember we had met before discussing the part 1 of the literary features. Let's have a quick recap. As you can see that on the monitor you will find the topics, the features that we had discussed in our previous lecture. These are the literary features of the Elizabethan age. First, the new classicism, abundance of output, the new romanticism, the drama, poetry, Scottish literature, prose. These are the literary features which we had discussed in our part 1 of this special lecture series. These features are particularly highlighted in your textbook, the reference book, which has been prescribed by Gujarat University. We will have a detailed discussion on these literary features today in the second part of the lecture. Let's see what are the aspects that we are going to discuss today. Today we shall be discussing morality plays, miracle plays, the university wits, sonnets and sonneteers, and the Jacobean drama. These are also additional features of the Elizabethan age which we did not discuss in our prior lecture. What do you mean by morality plays? Morality, the word itself is very suggestive. It has certain values, moral values, which are being taught, which are being preached, or which are being expressed through the plays. Now, this kind of play, which we can see in Elizabethan age or during the Elizabethan age, has a sort of medieval influence, and therefore you find that in the morality plays there would be the use of allegory and didactic approach. These plays definitely talk about the good and the evil, the difference between the good and the evil. Through the plays, it's a conscious effort to instill good moral values among the people who went to watch these plays. Therefore, they are known as the morality plays. We would see that in these plays there is a conflict between the good and the evil. The conflict between the good and the evil is specially with a clear intention of sending the message that it is finally the good that wins over the evil. And these kind of plays with this kind of clear message definitely instills and spreads good message of moral values. We can have a quick look at the third point that you have to clearly see, that it talks about in a morality plays you will have allegorical characters which gave way to real life characters. Let us come to the second part. As you can see on the slide, that you will find it's a different kind of play, miracle play. Miracle plays and morality plays, which we discussed earlier, both are pre-Shakespearean dramas like the university wits, which we will discuss very soon. Now, miracle plays were generally played in small towns with a special emphasis on the stories from the Bible. The stories from the Bible were enacted and the troupe used to move from town to town, showing the plays to the people, through which they could send a clear didactic message. They were preaching to the people through plays. Now you can find that some of the plays which were St. Nicholas, Easter Office, and the Office of the Shepherds. These are some of the miracle plays which were quite notable ones during the Elizabethan age. We would also see that there are 4 cycles of these plays: the York cycle, the Chester cycle, the Townley or the Wakefield cycle, and Coventry cycle. You might be wondering as to what these cycles are. They are not the bicycles that you ride. Definitely. These are the names of the towns in which these miracle plays were being shown, were being performed for the people. Now, let us see that out of all these 4 cycles, we look at the York cycle. There are how many plays? What are the collection of the plays that you will find in these different cycles? York town, where the plays were performed, in all, out of 51, only 48 plays exist. As we can look at the Wakefield town, there were 32 plays in all which were being performed in the town of Wakefield, 25 plays in Chester, and 48 plays in Coventry town. Now these are a clear idea, you get a clear idea about the miracle plays and the morality plays. Elizabethan age, as we discussed in our previous lecture, where the emphasis is on the drama form, the effect of the Renaissance, and you will find that how the reawakening, the enlightenment, all that had effect in the dramas which were being enacted. So you can find the essence of a Renaissance in these plays. After having discussed the morality plays and the miracle plays, which had a clear purpose of showing good message, sending good message to the audience, to the people who came to watch these plays. But when we come to the third kind of the drama, which is also a special feature of the Elizabethan age, that is university wits. University wits, the word itself is suggestive. It's before Shakespeare. It's a pre-Shakespearean group of writers. Why were they known as university wits? And who were they? This is what we need to understand and remember. A group of educated, highly educated, learned writers came forward and they started writing plays. Not only that they wrote entertaining plays, but they also performed these plays. And let us see who these people were. You can look on the monitor the names of these university wits: John Lilly, Robert Greene, George Green, Thomas Lodge, Thomas Nash, Thomas Kidd, and Christopher Marlowe. Try to remember there are 3 Thomases and there are 2 Greens, so don't get confused. These are the 6 university wits whom you have to remember. Why were they given these names as the university wits? They were known as university wits because they were all university educated men. Till then there was no such a condition that these people were learned For instance, we know that the most renowned Shakespeare was also not university educated. So these 6 university wits were specifically in a light-hearted tone known as university wits, because this label was given to them because they came from universities. They were learned scholars who, for the first time, took this initiation into writing and performing dramas for the sheer sake of entertainment. The second feature that you would see is, you will find that multifaceted, these 6 of them were multifaceted. In what way? Not only that they wrote plays, as is mentioned earlier, they also wrote they also wrote poetry, prose, and were also actors who performed in the plays that they wrote. They were sheer entertainers. They entertained because they knew the pulse of the people for whom they were performing. These people knew the subject so well. They borrowed from the Greek and Latin, because they had read a lot of Greek and Latin plays, and you could find these influence old stories. They tried to redo them and they tried to make them more entertaining for the audience, depending on their needs, their interests, so that they would be entertained to the fullest extent. And therefore it was essential for these writers to know the pulse of the people, because if you need to entertain these people, you need to know what they like. How did these university wits go about? You can see that they revised old plays and they acted in them. So the stories were borrowed. The theme that they got, the subjects that they dealt with, they were borrowed from the Greek and Latin, and they tried to redo them. They tried to revise them depending on the needs and likes of the people to whom they were catering to. We can also see that there were classical influences because they were scholars, because they had come from the universities. They knew the Greek models of plays, and they knew that the classical rules were very important in the making of a play, and therefore they strictly adhered to these rules. They observed the unity of time, place, and action as per the classical norms. They had a clear notion about what they were writing, and they strictly adhered to these norms. Like, either they would be clearly writing a comedy or a tragedy, because according to the classical norms, they had set up traditions, fixed rules, and these rules were very much being followed by these writers. Let us have a quick look at some of the writers and the kind of writing which influenced Kidd's Spanish tragedy. As you can find a Senecan influence, now that's also a literary feature of the Elizabethan age. The Senecan tragedies were replicated, were remodeled and used by Kidd in the Spanish tragedy. He tried to do this, adapt the Senecan tenet to the native materials. So this is how he tried to rework on the old model by catering to the needs of the people of England, because the material that they used for the plays were native, so that the people could relate to the work very easily. The art of characterization is also developed to a great extent. It's one of the feature of this Elizabethan age, because these different writers who tried to experiment with this particular form, they definitely saw to it that they tried to redo, or they tried to give a finesse to the art of characterization. They brought about certain changes in the characters. Different kind of characters were being portrayed through their plays. You can have a look at Marlowe's characters. Christopher Marlowe, one of the university wits who wrote plays like Dr. Faustus, Tamburlaine and Edward II. These three are some of the most famous and popular plays by Christopher Marlowe. Even before Shakespeare came into the scene during the Elizabethan age, it was Christopher Marlowe who was quite popular through these plays, Dr. Faustus, Tamburlaine and Edward II. Here he had very ambitious characters. So even with characterization of the the characterization, they tried to definitely make some kind of innovation, changes. They tried to redo things. It was not like the classical play where you have king as the central character, but you also had negative shades to these characters. How did Peele write? What was his way of characterizing? He tried to bring in mythological characters and tried to fit into a realistic mode. So the characters were lifted from the mythology and they were put into a realistic mode. That was his kind of writing. You will find that it was Kyd whose characters were very vibrant. They were very intense and passionate, but they were hesitant and indecisive. And it is these qualities of his characters that could have probably inspired Shakespeare. As these university wits were writing even before Shakespeare came into the picture, it is been suggested that a lot of the stories or the plays were later on adapted by Shakespeare by different names. So you can find shades of the characters of these university wits being redone or reworked by Shakespeare through his plays. So though Shakespeare became quite more popular, it is the university wits who played a major role in the making of Shakespeare, since they inspired him from in all ways. It's not only the story, the plot, or the unity of time, place and manner which was to be followed as per the classical norms, but Shakespeare also learned from these university wits about the art of characterization, creating different kinds of characters with a probably tragic flaw in them. So Shakespeare Hamlet is one such character. Now there's also this tragedy as a form developed. A new concept of tragedy came into existence. You will find that the classical models were being redone here. They were being brought back through the university wits, and how there were metrical forms in the drama. There were mythic allusions, there were evocative imagery and attention to syntax, control over the rhythms and movements. Now these are few things which were probably found in the tragedies of the Elizabethan age. Now, as we had discussed earlier in our prior lectures, in our previous lectures, that Elizabethan age is one of the richest age as far as literature is concerned, mainly because there were some very good writers and there were a lot of different forms which took shape, which were quite popular, and not only poetry, drama, prose, you have navigational writings and things like that. There was translation. A lot of things happen during this age, and therefore there was vast knowledge. We call it as unlimited. There was a lot of books being written and being performed. Now when we look at the poetry, you will find that sonnet as a form came into existence and developed. Not only existence, they were developed. Now it came into England for the first time during the Elizabethan age, and therefore we call them as the Elizabethan sonnets. It is one of the finest poetic expression of the modern cultural sensibilities. This was a direct influence of the humanism, which provoked the renewal of poetry as a literary form. You will find that the new generation of poets, they were singers, they had a lot of lyrical quality in their poetry, and there was a lot of attention was given to the rhyme. And therefore the new generation of poets during this Elizabethan age, who tried to experiment with the sonnet form, and therefore sonnets, Elizabethan sonnets, is also a very important literary feature of this age. Now what is a sonnet? If you want to define sonnet as a literary form, we could say that it's a short poem which could be recited to a musical accompaniment. So there is a lot of lyrical quality in these sonnets, and you will also find that it could be sung, and therefore they became quite popular because this was the age where people were looking forward for some sort of entertainment. So even within the plays, there were a lot of sonnets which were incorporated into the play. This form, sonnet form, it was dominated by music and rhythm. Therefore, there is a lot of lyrical quality in these sonnets in this form. What is the content of a sonnet? The content of a sonnet had a lot of emotions and feelings which were expressed through these sonnets. But there was only one single idea of emotion which was expressed in one particular sonnet. Petrarch and Dante, they were the original sonnet writers who tried to, that's why we say that the Elizabethan sonnet was modeled on Italian Petrarch. Therefore it's it's an Italian influence which brought about sonnet as a literary form to England. Now, who were the Sonneteers, early Sonneteers? Let's see. They included Sir Thomas Wyatt, Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey, Sir Philip Sidney, and Edmund Spenser. The Italian model or the Petrarchan model of sonnets brought about licentiousness and sensuousness in the Elizabethan sonnets as well, because it was a direct influence of the Italian model. Now these kinds of sonnets had some kind of a negative impact also to some extent, because there was a lot of freedom exercised by these writers when they incorporated these qualities of sensuousness and licentiousness into the sonnets. We also see that apart from sonnets, the kind of poetries that were written were Elizabethan lyrics and songs. The Elizabethan prose is another feature where you have different kinds of prose which were attempted. The fictional, specifically where you have Lodge and Nash, Thomas Lodge and Nash. There were non-fictional prose also which were written during this period. And then you will also find historical writings which were written, navigational writings and criticism. So there is not one single form that you could see which were not attempted during the Elizabethan age. So these features are being repeated sometimes so that you clearly understand them. We have again a look at the Elizabethan drama, because this is the most dominant feature that you will find during the Elizabethan age. The Elizabethan drama had the direct influence of the Renaissance drama. Whom did we discuss earlier? We discussed the miracle plays, the morality plays, and we also discussed the kind of plays written by the university wits. Now, when we talk about the Renaissance drama, you clearly remember two writers. They are Shakespeare and Marlowe. They attempted various kinds of drama. It could be major comedies, somber plays, great tragedies, English histories. Now, these were some of the different kinds of dramas which were written during that age. So Elizabethan drama as a literary feature also talks about another important significant writer called Ben Jonson, who also attempted not only tragedies but masques and lyrics. So you will find at the same time a same writer attempting different forms. It's not that he's just a dramatist, but they attempted different kinds of forms, literary forms in their writings. Comedies were written, but they were satirical and they were realistic. You will also find the dramas, especially when we talk about the morality plays or the miracle plays, which had the influence of the Bible, which had the writers were more of sermon writers, and you will also find that translators who reproduced the spirit of the period. These translators brought in a lot of material from different places of Europe. They tried to translate them and made them available for the people of England. Therefore, translation itself is a major literary feature, and it's because of this activity that a lot of knowledge, as we call it, the enlightenment or the reawakening or the Renaissance, during this period, translation played a major role in reproducing the spirit of the period. You find that pamphleteers were also quite popular during the Elizabethan age. What kind of pamphlets were being written? The tracts that you find here are the religious kind of works. A lot of religious works were written, and you will find a lot of political writings also during this period. Apart from that, you will also find, as criticism itself developed to a great extent, you will find literary tracts also written during this Elizabethan age. So you have a diverse kind of forms, literary forms, being made available during the Elizabethan age. So now this is the last feature which we would discuss. This particular feature is being discussed because it symbolizes the decline or the end of the Elizabethan era. It's after the death of Queen Elizabeth that this kind of dramas came into existence. Jacobean drama. It marked a sudden change in the perception of life. Till then, people loved watching comedies. There was romance, there was licentiousness, sensuousness in the writings. There was a lot of freedom, but you will find that with the Jacobean drama, a lot of things changed. The perception of life changed. Why did this kind of a change come about? For every literary feature, you will find that lot of historical events are responsible. The king's unruly individualism that you will find after the death of Queen Elizabeth, the skepticism which creeps in, and the revenge plays. Now these are few things that you can see or identify with the Jacobean drama. There was political plotting as well. Jacobean drama, as I mentioned earlier, it is marked by the final act of banishing drama from England's social life. You will find that drama as a form comes to a sudden standstill, and the Jacobean drama is responsible because with cynicism and all that, you will find that these plays, the Elizabethan plays, or the kind of dramas that were written during the Elizabethan era, they all tried to promote some kind of morality initially, but later on you will find that there is a lot of corruption that's taking place, and therefore there is a lot of degeneration of moral values. In the Jacobean drama, it comes with the degeneration of moral values, plot construction, and the dramatic art. So therefore this particular form comes to an end. Drama as a literary form marks its end, its the exit from the from England, especially with this Jacobean drama. Now Jacobean characters, as they were the precursors of the Restoration per se, you will find that this particular period is followed by, then when drama comes into existence, it's during the Restoration age that you will find. And you'll find the element of Jacobean characters or the traits of the Jacobean characters in the characters of the Restoration age. That is, for instance, personal cynicism. So quickly, can we have a look at each and every aspect of the literary feature? Once again, as I said, a quick recap, we did discuss the new classicism, abundance of output, and the new romanticism, the drama, poetry, prose, and Scottish literature in our part 1. Today we discussed a lot of other aspects. What are the points that we discussed today? We talked about the major feature of the Elizabethan age, and that is the Elizabethan drama, because it was drama that dominated this particular age. And who were the dramatists and what kind of plays were written? We discuss all of these in today's lecture. We started off with the morality plays and the miracle plays. The morality plays and the miracle plays have a very important role in communicating or in sharing good moral values with the people, and therefore they were being shown or being performed at various towns. The troupe used to move or travel from town to town, and they used to perform this with a clear idea of enlightening these souls, of instilling good moral values in the people through the stories of Bible. So therefore morality plays and miracle plays are the beginning of the drama as a form which later on develops as a full-fledged Elizabethan drama during the age of Shakespeare. So, post-Shakespeare attempts writing these plays, it were these kinds of plays followed by the university wits that inspired Shakespeare to a great extent. Now, when we talk about the university wits, we discussed there were 6 of them. These were all university learned scholars who attempted writing plays. They borrowed stories from various parts, like especially the Greek and the Latin, because they were scholars. They had studied Greek and Latin, and therefore they had a clear source of getting material from these sources. And these kind of university wits went ahead with writing a lot of different kinds of plays, and these plays definitely influenced Shakespeare to a great extent. Shakespeare's plays, you will find that some of the university wits plays a lot of similarities in these two plays. We also found that Elizabethan age attempted a lot of different literary forms. You will find sonnets which dominated poetry. Apart from drama, it was poetry which dominated this particular age. You will find lyrical qualities and rhyme in these poems. You will find prose, criticism, navigational writings. Translations plays a major role as a literary feature here, because a lot of material which came to England came through translation, and therefore all these features played a significant role in making the particular Elizabethan age as the richest age as far as English literature is concerned. So we discussed these features with a clear idea that you have Shakespeare who dominated the scene, but there were also these university wits who influenced him, who gave him a lot of material for his plays. Drama developed in full form because you found the tragedies and the comedies which were written, they were of very good quality. They were modeled on the classical plays that were written in Greek and the Roman plays. These things definitely influenced. We also discussed that the how Italian influence can be found in the Petrarchan, in the Shakespearean sonnets, or the Elizabethan sonnets as we call, where you can find the trace of the sonnets from Italy, the Petrarchan model, which was being redone here, reworked here, revised here. So therefore, Elizabethan age dominates and will continue to dominate the English literature because of its richness, because of its abundance of output. You will find a lot of works being written during this particular age. Thank you.
SANDHAN, All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.